ladies and gentlemen. This program is sponsored by the Stephanus Foundation. It's a foundation from Nigeria, and the topic we're doing today is the Northern Nigerian Imperilled, the neglect plight of the girl child. I guess a lot of us have ideas of what this topic talks about, but we're going to have some panelists with us who are going to give us more insight into this particular topic we're discussing today. I wish to introduce our panelists. They're already seated. First, the main coordinator for the Northern Nigerian Imperilled Neglect Plight of the Girl Child topic under the Stephanus Foundation is the coordinator, Nigerian International Coordinator, Engineer Mark Lipdo. I wish to introduce him first as the program coordinator. Let's give him a round of applause. Mr. Mark, you're welcome.
Thank you very much.
We also have on the panelists, we have Sydney Gochan. She's a Government Relations and Special Project Coordinator, Jubilee campaign. As some of us know, Stephanus Foundation is working in conjunction with the Jubilee campaign organization. So a round of applause for her, please. Sydney, you're most welcome. We also have our Honorable Commissioner for Women Affairs for Plateau State, by name Honorable Panglan, Caroline Dafor. She's the Commissioner for Women Affairs in Plateau State. You're most welcome. We also have our dear sister who just came in this evening. In fact, she just landed just about an hour ago, 2 hours ago, to make sure she gets through to this program. We're happy to have you, Dr. Angela Olufu Adeoye. She's the lead consultant of Stephanus Foundation. You're most welcome, ma'am. I think with this brief introduction, my name is Esther Musa Paul Gindri. I'm a member of the Stephanus Foundation, and also I work with NGOs across Nigeria. For quite some time I've been in this business, and I thank God to be a partner here with Stephanus and also Jubilee campaign. So as we start this program, I would like to give the coordinator an opportunity to please come and give us a brief welcoming remark and also introduce to us what we are doing today. Mr. Lipdo, Engineer Lipdo, you're welcome to the podium. A round of applause for him, please.
Thank you very much, Esther. And good evening, all. It's a pleasure to be back here again at another UNCSW event. We are known as Stephanus Foundation. We work in Nigeria. We've been registered for the past 25 years, working in Nigeria with victims of violence. And we are happy to have Jubilee campaign as partners who have always availed us this opportunity to be here to share with you our experiences and to get from you advice and probably support to be able to help victims of violence in Nigeria. Nigeria has been particularly on the radar as America placed Nigeria as a country of particular concern. It has come more in the news. And we have been working with victims of terrorism. There are many people who have lost loved ones, and there are those who have been kidnapped in one way or the other. They've spent years under their captors. There are some who have struggled to pay a lot to be able to get their freedom. In the midst of that are girls and women struggling. The target has always been men, but those who are suffering are mostly women, and the most vulnerable are the women, young girls, in the midst of all this. And Stephanos have been struggling to bring succor in that situation. We have put together a video so that it will give you a clear picture of what we have seen all these years as we are looking at the topic today, the plight of the girl child. I'll leave you to watch the video, which is coming up shortly.
Nigeria is a country in West Africa, spreading over 923,768 square meters. Nigeria is home to over 230 million people and of over 800 ethnic groups. Nigeria is the most populous black nation in the world. Northern Nigeria alone is a home to over 600 ethnic groups that are subdivided into 400 dialects. From the northeast to north central to northwest, Northern Nigeria holds 19 of the 36 states in the country. Today, the Northern Nigeria region is facing many challenges. Impoverished by decades of bad governance, the region is also infested with challenges of insecurity that is backed by an extremist Islamic ideology. Also deeply rooted in the region is an extremist patriarchal culture which has increasingly posed a threat to the aspirations and rights of the girl child. In northern Nigeria, women have been relegated for centuries, and here the girl child has been at constant risk of vices such as trafficking, kidnapping, and abuse. Worse still is the rising trend of abductions, forceful conversions, and early marriage of the girl child. Habiba Isa Isiaku, a 14-year-old Christian girl from Wawar Kaza community in Kankara local government area of Katsina State, was declared missing by her family on the 16th of August 2016. It would later be discovered that Habiba was indeed abducted and was already married out to one Jamilu Lawal, a Muslim, and an aide to the Emir of Katsina. Stephanos Foundation helped Habiba's family to initiate a lawsuit in the Federal High Court of Katsina over the violation of their daughter. The matter was frustrated until eventually in February 2017 it was thrown out of court. Although a Christian and a minor, Habiba was forced to convert to Islam and was married out to Jamilu Lawal without her parents' consent. Today, Habiba Ishaku has been abandoned by her husband Jamilu Lawal for a second wife and has had to move out of the marriage in search for a new path. Forced into early marriage, her education stopped and yet abandoned by her husband. She is now living with the effects of a hijacked innocence. Hawa Dadi, a 13-year-old Christian girl and another minor and daughter to a Christian leader in Bade Gashua of Yobe State, also went missing on the 1st of November 2017. Hawa was reportedly sighted a day later at the Emirate Palace in Bade. When Hawa's mother went to plead with the Emir to release her daughter, Hawa was influenced to deny her mother. Stephanos Foundation took up the matter, advocated at home and abroad, and within 4 days, the Emir succumbed to pressure and released Hawa. Stephanos Foundation relocated Hawa and sponsored her through her secondary education. In 2023, Hawa gained admission into a polytechnic and has just completed her diploma course in public administration. Trafficking of women and girls is also now rampant in northern Nigeria, especially in areas that have been affected by terrorism. Here, many families from the displaced communities are also found to have been giving their children away for financial benefits. Currently, even babies are now being sold for money in these areas, and many teenage girls are being given out as sex slaves on a daily basis. It's unfortunate that although the Nigerian state has many signed laws that protect women, girls and children, justice is not easily accessible. That even though the 1999 Constitution has provisions that protect women and children in respect to rights of life, dignity of human person, and the rights to liberty and freedom from discrimination based on gender, this is not enough. There are even other laws protecting Nigerian citizens of which women and girls are a peculiar case that have been signed into law, like the Child Rights Act of 2003, the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, CEDAW 1985, the Trafficking in Persons Prohibition Law Enforcement and Administration Act 2003, amended in 2015, to the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act 2015. Yet assessing these for justice is difficult. The Nigerian system has failed so many, and the northern Nigerian girl now is facing limited access to justice. Like Hawa, many other girls, victims of the same ills, do long for rescue, but up till now, they are still stuck in some forced marriages with no justice done. Their innocence hijacked forever. Government ministries and national agencies have also been created to ensure protection of the rights of the girl child. However, enforcement of such laws is weak and faulty. In Plateau State, government agencies like the Plateau State Gender and Equal Opportunities Commission and State Ministry of Women Affairs are actively working towards curbing these menaces, but many cases still abound. The full implementation of these laws, however, is limited by various factors, including cultural and religious practices. The inauguration of Sharia's Islamic law in the 12 northern states in Nigeria weakened the enforcement of the federal laws such as the Child Rights Act and undermines the statutory power of the Constitution, which is sacrosanct. The inconsistency between federal laws, customary law, and Islamic laws creates significant legal gaps, leaving many girls without protection against exploitation and abuse. The plight of the Nigerian girl child in relation to accessing justice is further compounded by economic challenges. Many women and girls, particularly widows and victims of terrorism, are facing intense economic challenges. The rise in standard of living and increasing inflation over the past few years have further aggravated this challenge. Many women and girls cannot afford to pursue proper legal processes and be given good representation. The legal system on its own poses challenges with rigorous technicalities. This is a fact that even predators are aware of and yet intentionally prey on the less privileged. Non-state actors have been instrumental in fighting for the rights of the girl child in northern Nigeria for many years. Stephanos Foundation has consistently been advocating and rescuing girls. In order to help many girls at risk of abduction, forceful conversion, and marriage in northern Nigeria, Stephanos Foundation is also running safe homes for teenagers and young girls. Through hosting these annual UNCSW parallel events, Stephanos Foundation is giving the room for many people to also be involved. However, there is only little that the non-governmental organizations can do. Government actors must wake up to this reality. The Nigerian state, in totality, must rise to the occasion and ensure the protection of women and the girl child. The Nigerian government must recognize the ills of terrorism and its effects and take effective measures to end it. Terrorism must indeed stop, and case for its victims must be taken seriously. The Nigerian government must ensure the domestication of the UN child laws in all its states and amend the constitution to reflect its secularity, prohibiting all interference by Sharia adherents. The Nigerian legal system must also review and enforce laws as well as take punishments on kidnapping, trafficking, and terrorism seriously. This should serve as a deterrent to abusers. Legal aid should also be made available to families whose daughters have been abducted and claimed to be converted and further married. Social benefit systems must also be provided for proper, equitable wealth distribution in order to bridge the gap between the haves and the have-nots. Government should collaborate with individuals, groups, and non-governmental agencies to cater for victims of sexual exploitation, kidnapping, and terrorism. These recommendations are not conclusive. They only point to the fact that there is still much to be done. The Northern Nigerian girl child must be protected and her dignity upheld. Thank you.
That was quite touching, very touching. It's unfortunate that we find ourselves in a society in Nigeria, being the most populous country in Africa, that we face this kind of terrible ills, especially the neglect of the girl child. I would like to call on Doctor, who has been the consultant to Stephanos Foundation, to come and give us a little brief on her research so that we can have an elaborate understanding of exactly what is on ground. Doctor, please come over.
Thank you, ma'am. Good evening, everyone. I'm a very emotional person, so I'm just, each time I watch that documentary, any one of us seated here could have been a victim of that. So, good evening, Honorable Commissioner. Sorry, I'm an academic and I always struggle with my protocol. I need to go to a protocol school. It's good to have you here. Good evening, the remaining members of the panel, and a very good evening to all the participants here. Indeed, we count it a great honor for you to have graced this session with your presence. I'm taking it for granted. And I'm giving you an early appreciation. Thank you very much for coming. Need I say more? I think the documentary said everything. But every year, Stephanos Foundation, look for a social phenomenon that is plaguing our community, particularly in the north where we reside. And they don't just identify that phenomenon, they try to find out the reason why and back up, they try to justify, their stance for fighting for such a social cause with facts. And that is what informed each year, we try to go to the field and carry out empirical studies to back up whatever social phenomenon we want to address. We could have as well just come and just give you a journalistic review, but we go through the rigors of carrying out research every year to ensure that we back our positions and our postulations with empirical facts. And so, in that regard, last year when we identified that the social problem, and then when we got to hear about the theme for CSW, talks about accessing justice for women, we decided as a foundation to research the problem, the plight of women and girls, particularly girl child in the north, that have experienced one form of social violence but lack access to justice. And we decided to tweak that a bit because the previous researches that I've been involved in, when we queried the access to justice, We are querying how the system has failed. We are querying, how women's poverty cannot afford them, the opportunity to seek redress in cases of violation. So this year, what we did, the tweaking we did this year, was to look at the plight of the girl child in the North from the premise of legal, what we call a plurality of the legal frame of Nigeria. And what I mean by the plurality of the legal frame of Nigeria is that you have so many laws, operating within the same sphere. I'm not a lawyer, so please forgive me if I don't get some of the terminologies right. So you have so many laws operating within a particular sphere, and so instead of those laws to grant you justice, they further contradict your situation. So in the northern climate, so you have the statutory law, you have the customary law, and then you have the religious law. And I think we're just being modest by saying religious. Let me call it what it is, the Sharia law. So you have those three laws operating within that sphere, and you find victims of one form of violence being caught up in the web, of trying to get justice. Because these laws are greatly, particularly the customary law and the religious law, are greatly influenced by culture and by religion. And if you understand how our culture is within that area, then you understand how, religion and culture are able to, influence the justice system, the legal system within that community. And so that was what we tried to do differently. Let me just quickly run through, because I know there are fellow academics in the house. Before we query the scientific authenticity of this research. So of course, we identify the problem. There's an introduction that I think I've just briefly done that. I won't bother you. So the research, what was our research objectives? It was to analyze the coexistence of statutory law, customary law, and Islamic legal frameworks, and then to identify the conflicts that these three laws, the existence of these three laws, do to the plight of women in the North. Laws are supposed to protect our rights, right? They're supposed to be a safe harbor. So in terms of violation, okay, I have the law to run to. But in this case, the opposite is a situation for girls and women in the North. Forgive me when you see me, I'm so used to talking about women. So forgive me when you hear me talk about women and girls. But the focus population for this research is girls. So one of the research objectives was to also evaluate the empirical, realities of this violence in domestic communities. You know that the North has been plagued with a lot of conflict, but beyond conflict, we have much more violence going on within the domestic sphere by family members and that is not much talked about, that is watered down for various reasons. So the core issue for us is that despite Nigerians ratifying on so many global legal frameworks of human rights treaties and even the Child Rights Act, there is still a high level of child rights violation, particularly in the North. And most of the states in the North, and I wish I could get a map here to break the North, because when I talk the North, it's like I'm just lumping. So I'm talking about the core North, Northeast, Northwest, North Central I think is taking the lead in terms of, response mechanisms, in terms of, trying to promote the girl child, in terms of trying to stop the modern day slavery, the trafficking, because as a result of the conflict going on in that region, perpetrators of trafficking young children, that is an up for them. And on a daily basis, we are in the news of rescuing young girls that are being trafficked for various reasons. So the North Central seems to be taking the lead, and you can attribute that to the fact that it has domesticated the Child Rights Act. Where most of the other states in the core North have refused to domesticate the Child Rights Act for reasons that we may not have time to go into here. So you have that context within the North, and so protective measures for the girl child are compromised, greatly compromised, and they are compromised by these contradicting legal frameworks. The Sharia law in the North, in short, permits me to use this word, that the fear of the Sharia law in the North is the beginning of wisdom for adherents to the Islamic faith. They would rather go to the Sharia court or apply Sharia law than obey state constituted law, statutory law, and whatever. So, of course, the impact of this problem is the perpetration of systemic violence and the culture of impunity, because within this community there's a great impunity to disobey statutory laws, and so you have a high perpetration and constant violation of statutory law. And so in northern Nigeria, the clash between statutory laws and traditional religious legal systems often means that perpetrators of violence against girls escape justice. And I'm sure many of you can recall the young lady that was set ablaze for blasphemy. Is it Deborah? Sokoto. The emir, the sultan of Sokoto has not said a word. But if northerners are killed, the other day it was in Edo State, and you had all governors going to pay homage, all the northerners were talking. People are killed in Plateau State, you don't get, if not even the principle of reciprocity is played out. You are on your own and all that. So we see that clearly, right? So, because they know that they are backed by this religious law, they are so aflamed to act with so much impunity. They know that they will always get away with it. A girl is killed, all in the name to save the face of the family, and nothing is done about it. Somebody is burnt or killed, nothing is done about it. So this study dives deep into the lived experiences of these girls. A few of the girls that we interviewed for the purpose of this research, their experiences were harrowing. Their experiences, and it was difficult, to bring up the principle of objectivity in research. So difficult as a mother to detach myself from those realities, because even though I can't say I could relate, but I could just feel their pains as a mother. So we had literature review. For want of time, I'm not going to bother you with all the academic whatever that we did here. But it's just to say that the scientific procedure of carrying out research was done. Like I said earlier, need I say more? I think the documentary said everything. But I just quickly, I had the commissioner has another appointment. So I just want to quickly run us through some of the findings that our research found. Of course, before I talk about the findings, to further validate this research, the qualitative research design was adopted. And why we chose qualitative was because of the sensitivity of the topic. And because we wanted to introduce answers and real answers. We thought going quantitative may not give us the results that we need. Going qualitative would, because we're able to meet with some of these victims one-on-one, talk to them, observe, the impact or the effects of this social phenomenon on them. So we adopted a qualitative research design, and the analysis of this data and secondary sources says that the specific manifestation of violence against girls within this region includes sexual violence such as rape, exploitation, abduction from schools and homes linked to forced religious conversion. So at times when you set out to perpetrate the act of violence, you may not really be able to say what the aim is. Is it just to maim? Is it just to rape like we see in normal conflict situations? We know that when there's a conflict situation, it is difficult to say, oh, you cannot have sexual violence going on, And in conflict studies, we can to an extent explain why that is. Maybe to weaken the resolve of the opponents, to be able to fight back and all those to liberate the population. But in the north, when they set out to carry out conflict, to maim and to, it goes beyond just sexual violence. It goes beyond, is an Islamic agenda. So you pick up these Christian girls, you convert them forcefully, they give birth to children for you, and then you just dump them and leave them at their own peril. And you have thousands of cases like that. With the support from religious and traditional institutions. Some of these girls are even harbored in the residences of the traditional institutions within the community. And if you are a helpless parent whose child is a victim, and you may not be able to do anything. The Ese girl, the Port Harcourt girl that has just recently graduated, maybe because of where she came from, South, there was a lot of noise, the government was involved, and the girl was brought back. So that's just one of such few cases, but we have much more, of girls that are in such captivity and nothing has been done about it. And they will tell you if you go to the government, they have themselves planted in all the government institutions. So what are the results we found? One, of course, prevalence of sexual violence as expected. The normalization of early marriage is now being normalized. The Child Rights Act says the statutory age for marriage is 18. But within that region, they will tell you that no, Sharia law says maturity starts at puberty, and that is 13. And so you have that kind of contradiction. The statutory law says one thing, the religious law says another, and we is the victim, the girl child, within that region. So there is a normalization of early child marriage, and for the customary and Islamic legal norms frequently normalize early marriage. So early marriage could be as early as 9. You are assumed to have approved, particularly these days that children eat well and they approach puberty very early. So once you have approached puberty, you are considered matured to be married off. And of course, this customary and religious law overrides statutory laws that states the maturity age for 18. And then the impunity, another result we found was the impunity and the jurisdictional void. Statutory protections are frequently undermined. And I'm sure most people here can really relate. They are frequently undermined. The government puts out a policy. Oh, it's not for us, as long as it's not coming from our religious law. So offenders escape justice by navigating, between these different plural legal system. So, hegemony of patriarchal interpretation. Patriarchal interpretation dominates the customary and Islamic systems. Of course, we know that patriarchy, is a system that is set out to oppress women. It's a system that thrives where you have equal power relations. And because patriarchy is highly held within this climate. So it is, it is there. And so you have perpetrators of this evil, riding on the wings of patriarchy to subvert modern statutory protections by Asian traditional norms. And of course, the access to justice gap exists. The barriers for the girl child, of course, other social barriers, poverty, social stigma. So it is one thing that, this child is already disadvantaged because she's a female. But there are so many other intersectionality, that comes to play on her and further worsen her plight as a girl, not just in Nigeria, but as a girl living in the North. And then access to justice is further impeded by the failure of the state to provide a protective shield. So it's like the state is helpless. The state is, of course, we can only make laws. If they try to enforce it, they can be charged for further violation of other people's human rights and all that. So we find the state working on eggshells, just to ensure that they are not charged for violation of human rights. So what are the legal responses? What are the solutions? There is need for us for harmonization. We can't have a plethora of laws operating within the region. Because when you do, perpetrators of evil will look for that, will cash in on the gap and perpetrate their mischief. So what do we need to do? We need to, harmonize the law. And I always say, in my country, we are good to making laws, we are good to, looking for solutions, we are good to reacting. But what I think lack basically for us as a nation is the political will to do the right thing. Is it that we do not have the laws? We do. Is it that the laws are not explicit enough? They are. They were not succeeding because somebody somewhere lacks the political will to ensure that they do the right thing. And so we need to advocate. We have been advocating for the full domestication of the Child Rights Act. What can the nation do about it? As nation states empowered to enforce the states to take up the Child Rights Act? I don't think so. They depend on the political will of the sub-states to domesticate. And then a summary of our findings also show that religious traditions are used to bypass statutory age of consent laws, and I think I mentioned that earlier. And then that the community leaders, are always mediating. Of course, they mediate against violence and all that, but the political will, that who pays the piper, it takes it on. I would like to round up here by concluding that the persistent crisis of violence is sustained by a complex legal architecture, particularly within the North. You cannot have multiple laws operating within the law. So the statutory law says protect the girl child. And then the penal code that is practiced in the North says no. Beating is right. You can beat your wife. You can beat your children. It's in the penal code. I can't remember the section of the Sharia law. And so you will find perpetrators riding on that they are backed by the law to do that. So for us to go forward, we need to dismantle this complex legal architecture. And by doing so, or how do we do so? By first of all, dismantling the hegemony of patriarchal legal interpretations, because what has further, buttressed, the implementation of this negativity of a legal framework that we have within this region is the hegemony of the patriarchal system. So the patriarchy is now interpreted in our customary laws. It is interpreted in our religious law. We just see the role of patriarchy there. And of course, because when you have such a scenario, justice remains elusive. So for us as Stephanos Foundation, we want to use this platform to appeal to all of us, because anyone could be a victim. The fact that we are here today doesn't mean that we may not be victims tomorrow. And so we need to do the needful. And so it is a clarion call for us from Stephanos Foundation that justice for the girl child, particularly in the North, requires a unified statutory legal approach. It's high time for us to not to play lip service to looking at the issue of the plural legal frameworks we have within the North. Let me sound like my pastor now. I hope with these few points I've been able to convince you and not confuse you that the plight of the girl in the North, of the girl child in the North, particularly in the context of access to justice, needs to be taken seriously going forward. Thank you for your time. Hope to see you soon.
Oh, that was detailed.
Yeah.
Dr. Olofu, thank you very much for that beautiful presentation, giving us the details you got from your research, and also giving us solutions on how to handle this menace that is looking us and staring us in the face in the northern Nigeria. Unfortunately, the girl child has been in constant risk. That's most unfortunate of negative social crisis. We pray that with this kind of meetings, we should be able to get solutions and get them properly implemented. I would like to also call on the next person to talk on this particular topic. She's the Commissioner for Women Affairs in Plateau State. Of course, Plateau State lies within the northern sphere of Nigeria. And she has been working in collaboration with the Gender and Equality Opportunity Commission in Plateau State. Unfortunately, the coordinator had to step out of the meeting earlier this week because she had another very urgent call she had to move to Plateau. But since our commissioner is here, Honorable Caroline Daffo, I would like to invite you on the podium to please come and give us your insight and what has you've been doing in your office concerning this matter. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. I want to use this opportunity to appreciate Stephanos Foundation and our partners, the Jubilee and the other partners, for this opportunity to speak about the challenges we're facing with the girl child in Plateau State, Nigeria. My name is Caroline Dafu Panglang, the Commissioner for Women Affairs and Social Development, Plateau State. Plateau State is situated in the north central part of Nigeria. And thank God we've been talking about what is happening in the north, and Plateau State happens to be one of the states that is being affected with what girls are going through in the north. So for us on the plateau, we have been on the spotlight for some time now, and in the issues of crisis. So a lot have been going on in Plateau State, and a lot of girls have been taken advantage of because of the crisis that we've been facing for years now. So we are really suffering the issue of child trafficking on the plateau. A lot of our girls have been trafficked out for child labor, for prostitution, and for organ harvesting. We face a lot of challenge of late with our girls, and children. So we feel this is timely for us to come and tell our story, so we can be able to get partners that we can work with, because government cannot do this alone. Even though the government of His Excellency Barrister Khaled Manasseh Mutfwang has been doing a lot since he came into office. because some of these laws that were being mentioned has been domesticated on the plateau already. We have done a lot of awareness, a lot of sensitization on these laws. That we have the Child Rights Act, we have the VAP law, we also have the gender and equal opportunity laws. And these 3 laws have been domesticated on the plateau. And this wouldn't have been possible without the support of His Excellency Barrister Khaled Manasseh Mutfwang. And so we do a lot of sensitization to sensitize our people, to talk to them about the effects of trafficking and how it affects our girls in the long run. I've repatriated a lot of girls back to the state since the inception of this administration. A lot of girls. We brought girls back from South Africa, from Ghana, from Mali, from Burkina Faso. You know, a lot of our girls that have been taken out because of the security challenge we find ourselves in. So, and like I said, government cannot do it alone. And then sometimes when we bring back these girls, you don't even know what to do with them. You know, some of them are some of them come back very sick. You know, we have to take them to the hospital. You have to start taking care of them, and then you see how you can empower them or how you can support them to go back to school for those that can still go back to school. For some of them, they will tell you they can't be able to go back to school because they left school for a very long time and they can't be able to go. So we've been able to train a lot of them in skill acquisition. And for some of them, we have given them, we've empowered them and they are on their own. For some are still in school under the care of the government and we're still taking care of them. We have a lot of them like that. We have children from the age of, in fact, 5 years, 6 years, 10 years that have been taken out for trafficking. So a lot is happening on the plateau. And then this government have been trying to see how we can stop this menace that is tearing us on the face. And to the glory of God, we are working with NAPTIP in the States to see how we can stop this. We're also working with the road transport workers because some of these girls are being taken out through the parks. So once they see them at the park and they suspect something is wrong, they call the ministry and the gender commission and we'll be able to intercept the girls. But for those that have been taken before we came into office, we've been able to repatriate a lot of them back to the States. And a lot is going on, honestly, because the girl child is always at the receiving end. And why some of these things happen is because you discover that because of the crisis, the breadwinner, who is the father, has been taken away, maybe he's dead, and then you have the mother who is there with about 8 kids, 10 kids, and she can't be able to take care of them. Then you see people come into the States taking advantage of such women, telling them they're going to help them with the children, they're going to take them to school, they're going to give them jobs out there, but we keep telling them there's no job out there. What they take your children for is just to exploit them, either in child labor or in prostitution. So this government is open to collaborations, we're open to partnership, to partners that are willing to come to Plateau State to help us with this menace that is tearing us on the face. So we can be able to help the girl child on the plateau and also in northern Nigeria. Thank you very much for listening. I will stop here because I need to catch up with my flight now. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Honorable Commissioner. We appreciate that you're already working hard on this matter, and we believe that a lot of other groups will collaborate with the government, especially the government of your state, which is also my state, the Plateau State. Our state, for that matter. I actually will stand with you on the fact that I know His Excellency has been His Excellency, the Governor of Plateau State too. Being a governor of a state in the northern part of Nigeria is working hard, really hard to ensure that this terrible menace facing us is being taken good care of especially through the office of the Honorable Commissioner and the Gender Commission. Thank you very much once again for your beautiful presentation, and we believe sooner or later we shall get even more more successes, as in your success stories. Thank you once again, and we wish you a safe flight. Would like to call on our next panelist, Sydney Kocham, who is one of the NGOs collaborating with Stephanos Foundation. She is actually the coordinator of Jubilee campaign. We appreciate you because you give Stephanos Foundation the platform to be able to get registered so that we'll be able to participate in this beautiful event. I'd like to call upon you, Sydney. Can you come over? Let's get...
Can I sit?
Oh, you.
It's more comfortable.
Okay, then you can use the mic. Thank you. While we listen to her, I'm sure we're getting well informed on this beautiful topic.
Can you hear me?
Go ahead.
Is the mic working?
Yes.
Okay. Firstly, I'd like to thank you all for attending and for you guys to make your, last minute travel plans. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I know it's definitely out of your way, so thank you so much for joining us. I want to give a little bit of background about how this event and how our report came into existence. In late 2022, our partners on the ground in Pakistan actually had researched into cases of abduction, forced faith conversion, and child marriage of minority faith girls, predominantly Christian and Hindu in Pakistan. And they all sort of followed a similar pattern. A girl would be abducted while she's outside of her home by a neighbor or on her way to or from school. Meanwhile, her family would, do everything they could to rouse the police to actually intervene and rescue her. And what would happen is that the authorities would either refuse to intervene outright or just delay the process so long that these girls were kept in captivity for months and even years at a time. Now, in 2024, my boss at Jubilee Campaign attended the annual Religious Liberty Partnership. I think it was in Nepal that year, I'm not sure. And she met a Nigerian lawyer. Her name is Abhishek Sambo. And she told about her story advocating for these girls in this very similar situation. It was almost identical to what we saw in Pakistan. And so we wanted to learn more, and we spoke to her a little bit about the cases that she worked on. And then we also reached out to some of our other partners on the ground, Leah Foundation, and then Resilient Aid and Dialogue Initiative. And then we also like to thank Christian Freedom International for supporting us through all this. And then, can you go to that?
Yes.
In preparation for the event on the Hoover platform, I posted a few different poll questions to sort of gain insight into what, the NGO CSW attendees thought about the relationship between majority faith and child marriage. The first question we asked was, what factors do you think contribute to child marriage? And pretty evenly, people responded that it was tradition or culture or poverty, and then the less commonly reported were education, patriarchy, and lack of human rights awareness. And then we also asked a different question. Do you believe majority faith traditions mitigate or aggravate the prevalence of child marriage in Nigeria, in northern Nigeria? And what we saw was that it was kind of also split down the middle. Half people believe that it negatively impacted child marriage, and then another half of people thought that it worked to improve the eradication of the practice. And then there was a small group of, well, I guess not small and not insignificant portion of people who found that it could work as a mitigating factor or to amplify child marriage, and we'll discuss that a little bit later. Discussing the relationship between majority faith, major faith traditions, and underage marriage requires nuance. Child marriage occurs across many different faiths, including also Christianity and Hinduism, and in secular contexts. Furthermore, while some religious texts or historical practices have been used to justify early marriage, and there are some variations, within the same faith, no major faith no religious text explicitly mandates or universally promotes child marriage. And there are many faith leaders who are taking action to oppose child marriage as a practice, which we'll also discuss later. Poll question 3, we asked, it wasn't a yes or no question, we asked them to provide written response, and there were a bunch, but I tried to limit it. In what way do you think that faith traditions embolden perpetrators? And as you can see, some people said it by officiating ceremonies between old men and young girls. And then when the perpetrators go unpunished and they hide behind religious claims on their action as being permissible theologically. And then we also asked, alternatively, in what way do you believe majority faith traditions work to eradicate child marriage? And they noted that mentoring sessions that are informal with faith leaders, and that cultures that may base their practices on faith may have a greater impact on behavior changes. According to UNICEF, 43% of Nigerian women aged 20 to 24 are married before the age of 18, with rates as high as 76% in northern Nigeria. The 12 predominantly northern states in Nigeria adhere to Sharia law, and they have not, as Dr. Olufu said earlier, they do not adhere uniformly to the Child Rights Act of 2003, and they report the highest rates of child marriage. More recently, in 2023, researchers surveyed 210 female residents in the northeastern state, Borno, who reported being subject to child marriage. 93% indicated that they were married between the ages of 13 and 15 years. 7% were married between 9 and 12 years old. Sharia jurisprudence permits the marriage of girls under the age of majority as long as they have experienced their first menstrual cycle. Christian girl respondents to a 2019 survey, which was conducted in Kaduna State, indicated that 18 to 20 years was the ideal age for marriage. Conversely, Muslim female adolescents believed that 14 years was typical age for marriage among years in the Muslim community. Perpetrators, so what we've seen is that in the northern Nigeria regions, there have been very similar cases to what are happening in Pakistan. Perpetrators, which are civilian or militant groups also, they take advantage of a legal loophole. When they abduct a Christian girl, they can forcibly convert her to Islam, which then makes them under the purview of Sharia law. And much like in Pakistan, the criminal justice system fails these girls in a few different significant ways. They force their victims to testify in front of their captors, which subjects them to pressure and threats so they end up testifying in favor of their husbands, when in reality the entire marriage is fabricated. And then at the same time, family members who have been able to get the attention of authorities and get them to intervene, they will provide documentation showing that the girl is underage. They'll provide birth certificates, school records, even church involvement papers, but the judges ignore them. They ignore the documents, and then instead they will accept documentation provided by perpetrators, such as faith conversion certificates. And because they have been converted to Islam against their will, they are viewed in the eyes of the law as Muslim, and so they are subject to Sharia law rather than customary law. The next one. I wanted to go over a few different cases. We have a lot more in the report that we have. There's a QR code on the mini flyers. But I just want to go over 2 recent cases. In March 2024, a 16-year-old Christian girl named Cecilia didn't return home from when she went to the market, and her family immediately reported her as missing, and they started to search the community to see if they could find her. It took 3 months to get the authorities to do anything to rescue the girl. In the time that she could have been located and rescued, she had been coerced into accepting Islam and married to a Muslim man in his 50s. And her siblings, when they heard about what had happened, they followed up with the Nigerian Inspector General of Police in June, a couple months later, to criticize the Yobe State Commissioner of Police, whose dereliction of duty, quote, paved the way for the Islamic Affairs Group to call us and categorically inform us that our daughter has already been Islamized and will soon be married out in an Islamic rite. That information has plunged our family into serious confusion and trauma. In January 2025, after almost a year in this forced marriage, Cecilia was forced to take matters into her own hands, and she escaped. And her sister has confirmed that she has returned safely. And then there is another case, 14-year-old Esther. This was back in 2023. She had moved into her aunt's home after her father fell ill. And after sort of resettling in her aunt's home and getting used to the community, her family encouraged her to go back to school. She had paused it while she was readjusting. And only less than a month after she had started school in Kaduna State in this new community, she didn't return home one day from class. And the following day, her aunt spent the day searching for her. And she went to the school to ask, where her attendance records was she at school that day. And one of her classmates told Esther's aunt that she had been transported to the home of a Muslim woman. And then when she visited that woman, it was reported that a police officer and local traditional leader had conducted a forced religious conversion. And at this point, the family was so desperate that Esther's father, who was sick at the time, came as well to try everything to rescue the girl. And they visited the Dawah Council, which is a council whose main objective is to promote Islam, and they also turned away the family. And they managed somehow to get in contact with Esther to speak about what had happened to her, and she confirmed that she wanted to return home with him. She was not there by choice. And the council, the Dawah Council, they gave them a compromise. They would keep Esther for 1 month and see if she wanted to stay with them. And after just 30 days, they came back and they asked her, do you want to come home with us like the last time we spoke to you? She said, no, I would like to stay here. I'm a Muslim now. Oops. And in August 2023, after she had spent 4 months, she was rescued by the Hausa Christian Foundation. There are many, many similar cases. These are just a few. Briefly, 16-year-old Jennifer, she was kidnapped by a local resident, converted to Islam, and had her name changed to Zainab. She was already forcibly married and with child when she was rescued. 14-year-old Mary, who was drugged and taken to the morality police and converted to Islam. 16-year-old Badia, who disappeared and was converted to Islam at the local emir's palace. And though she was rescued, she was kidnapped a second time, and we have not heard news about that case. And then, you can go to the next one. I'm not going to go into a ton of detail about the negative effects of child marriage. I mean, it is widely known as one of the most harmful practices. I mean, it interrupts a girl's education, which then totally depletes her lifelong learning and earning potential. Premature birth exposes the mother and the child to health conditions that are long-term. And less is known about, or less has been studied about the effects of forced religious conversion on children. But what we do know is that Nigeria is one of the most religious countries in the world. Removing a child from, especially when they're in the age of coming into their identity and developing themselves, removing them from the church and the social support system that they've built, it can really deplete their sense of identity and also exacerbate mental distress that they are experiencing. You can go to the next one. This is a quote. I'm not going to read it. Well, I guess I can. We don't have enough support systems for victims of trafficking. It breaks my heart when you have rescued the girls and their future seems so bleak because they are vulnerable to being re-victimized because the exact same circumstances that led to them being trafficked in the first place in more than 90% of cases still exist. Things the outlook isn't totally dismal. We did poll about what interventions people thought would be beneficial in working towards the elimination of child marriage. And some of the responses were legal reform, enforcement of minimum marriage age laws, peer counseling, investment in community awareness programs, and more. You can go to the next one. Within the legal realm, the three main obstacles.
To eliminate child marriage, experts and advocates prioritize.
On topic. To address the three main legal obstacles, which we identified as insufficient child protection policies, parallel and contradictory legal systems, and inadequate religious freedom laws, we proposed that the federal child protection law be revised to raise the minimum marriageable age to 18 years, and collaboration with civil society, faith leaders, jurists, and human rights experts to create a compelling legal argument to raise the minimum age of marriage. And then within the criminal justice system, we advise the creation of child protection units that are gender informed and adolescence informed to train authorities how to respond to these specific cases. And then the next one after that one. This is a whole block of text. I'm going to summarize it. Legal and judicial reform are obviously very important for Nigeria to fulfill its commitment and made numerous commitments to eliminate harmful practices, including child early and forced marriage. Poll responses, though, and testimonies from Nigerians identify entrenched and outdated cultural norms as an impediment to the progress. Legislative and judicial reform are only successful insofar as they represent the will of the general population to eradicate child marriage. Fortunately, there have been some positive developments that we've observed in predominantly Muslim countries around the world that can serve as a model. For example, in Morocco, which is a predominantly Muslim country, the Mohammed VI Institute for Training of Imams teaches faith tolerance and discourages religious coercion. In Indonesia, religious leaders participate in socialization and sensitization programs to educate the youth and their parents on the harms of child marriage and the laws that they are protected by. And even after 2 years after a consortium of female Islamic theologians, they had issued a fatwa rejecting child marriage as a practice. And within 2 years, Indonesia had raised its marriage laws to minimum 18 years. In countries such as, in extremely religious countries such as Nigeria, faith leaders hold tremendous legitimacy in their community, and they're viewed as sort of the moral beacon of light, and so it is totally possible, and it has been done in other countries, where Muslim leaders have taken it upon themselves to work with community and discourage the practice and frame it in a lens that child marriage is antithetical to human rights and antithetical to religion, Islam. And we've seen that this has made tremendous progress in shifting the cultural attitude towards child marriage. When you have a community leader, a faith leader telling you, this is the real issue. It really makes a difference, more so sometimes even than law change and criminal justice reform. It has to be reflected in the people that this is something that they want, to eliminate child marriage. And so, to end on an optimistic point, we issued one last poll asking people what inspires hope in them that we can achieve progress towards the global eradication of child marriage. And we found some good responses, that girls' voices are being heard, communities are embracing education about child and early forced marriage. Child marriages are becoming less of a taboo topic. People are talking about it more, which fosters dialogue. Transparency about technology. Through technology, there have been, in rural areas, they've been going on these edutainment programs to teach children in these areas and their parents who might not have access to the most updated laws, to teach them about the laws that protect them. And there's an expanding group of women leaders who are, confronting the patriarchy, and I think there are a few of us today who are a good example of that. And one person responded, and I think it was a great outlook, says the global movement against child marriage is unstoppable. It just takes a little bit of time, and we can't give up the fight. We encourage you guys to read our report. It's a very long report, so we don't expect you to read all of it, and we included like 2-pager or 1-pager front and back with just some of the main findings and a few different cases. But yeah, I'm gonna wrap it up there. I feel like I've spoke for a while.
Thank you so much. I think she deserves better.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Stevie. You basically explained to us the problems. You've given us the special interventions and also solutions. Thank you so much. This has been quite explicit. I personally, when I saw the story of Esther, one of the stories, I said, "Oh, I'm Esther, but oh, thank God I'm not this Esther." But I could have been this Esther. Of course, we could be also, we are all vulnerable in northern Nigeria, so we thank God that we have organizations that are working on this complete guidance and are working hand in hand with the government in order to ensure that our girls are secured. Sadly, Nigeria is known as one of the most religious countries, but what is happening there is just heartbreaking. But we know it will change soon. Thank you so much once again. I think we'll give room for questions. If you have any questions, you could throw to our panelists. I'm sure they will be willing to help out. Yes, ma'am.
The movie began with a beautiful scene of just kind of regular housing situations. And I think I might not be the only one. I don't have a concept of the lives that they have. Are they in villages? Are they in towns? And then my other question is, do you live there? How far away do people with normal lives live from these desperate situations? Is that a reasonable question too?
Who's going to pick that up? Doctor? Yeah.
In my remarks, I said these are things that we can relate with. If you live in Nigeria, you find them in your community. Some of them are in the urban center. Most of us here reside in the urban center. And this case is not in the urban center. Generally, I work with the university, and I've seen and had cases of university undergraduate girls being converted to Islam. and married off to, for a want of a better word, illiterates, for a want of a better word, right now. People that are involved in menial jobs. So you have this, you have it happening in the urban centers as well as in the rural center. In terms of figures and numbers, it's difficult to really say what parts you have it more prevalent.
So they're like hidden into just regular fabric towns and cities.
Yes.
Oh, well, that was my question.
Towns, villages,
I'm afraid in my head it's there they are and here's everyone else, but it's that.
So we wake up
It's
one morning and
woven
just
in.
heard that
Yeah.
your neighbor's daughter as a matter of fact, when the Boko Haram insurgency started in Borno State, it was told that they were going to houses to pick up girls before the popular Chibok girls abduction, and they were going to houses abducting girls, and they would just drop whatever they feel as a dowry for the parents and just abduct.
And they will yield, they will give their daughters.
Yes, unwillingly.
To add to that, as an organization, actually, we've been working for years. Personally, I've been involved in rescuing girls in cities. You know, you will find a girl who is even in a tertiary institution going into university or postgraduate, doing her postgraduate, she'll be declared missing. And then when you probe into the matter, you find out that they just announced to the family that she has been married off. And that's how it happens in the cities. It also happens in villages. The cases we make mention of, Habiba was in Bade, but it was in the town of Bade, you know, and then I think Habiba Ishaku, it was Hawa that is in Bade, but Habiba Ishaku is in the village, Bawon Kaza, in Katsina. So it can happen anywhere. And we've seen people in Jigawa reporting to us that their daughters are missing from school. And they were actually abducted from school. They go to school as normal children in the morning, and that's it. They don't come back. And then you'll be told they are married out. I've had to travel to Zaria, which is a journey about 5 hours from Jos, to try to rescue another girl who was abducted at 13. She was Victoria Sunday at that time. And we lobbied so hard before they gave her to us. In fact, they had to ask me to leave, that they will have to bring the girl the next day. And when they brought the girl to us, she had been missing for almost 7 months or so. And we came and discovered she was pregnant. You know, so, and that's somebody, a girl from the city, that went to Zaria City to school, and that happened. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Another question.
Yeah, on just on that, basically, there's no specific place where these things happen. It can happen anywhere. It's more concentrated in the remote areas, especially at the outskirts of town, but they happen even within town. So it's really devastating the society. It's happening. Yes, can we have your question, please?
Thank you so much. I was at the previous talk and I'm accidentally here, but I had no idea. But my work is follow the money. So have you done analysis of how much a girl is worth to a family, like where the money is, who's paying off the politicians, like all those pieces that are happening?
Not sure.
Engineer Lindo, did you get it?
Yeah. The girl, the worth of the girl, you said?
So, if I don't understand why they're taking other girls and converting them to Islam. Don't they have girls in their system that, you know, that they're there?
Yeah.
So, well, follow the money, follow the money. Where's the money?
Exactly.
Like everything is, I'm sorry, but everything's really based on the money. So has someone done analysis of if they take a girl from a small village at 9 years old, like how much money is she worth to the family that's now converted her to Islam that keeps her for 2 or 3 years? I mean, she's basically being enslaved, right? And then the care economy, which is the economy that women contribute to the society, is not part of anybody's GDPs, so it's completely invisible. And the question that I have is like, who's calculating who's following the money? That's my question.
Well, at the moment, I don't think anybody is looking at the financial aspect of that at the moment. What we see as the motivation here is a different kind of reward. Most of the perpetrators, like you know, in Sharia, a girl is at puberty within 9 or even less. And as far as they think she's marriable, she can be married. But most of the girls that are found in that level, that are considered virgins, are always found among the Christians. Because the Christian society raised their children with high values, expecting that they should be 18 before they are married out. And so they become an attraction for those who have those kind of ideology of rewarding themselves with virgins. And so they look at those children as a form of reward, and more so that it is a crime with impunity, showing a sign of conquest. They just believe that when they perpetrate this, it should inflict the worst form of punishment to someone they believe should go into punishment because he's an apostate. And so this is the form of reward that we see, more than financial. And these days, they are also doing it with financially. They go even among the Muslim communities, they find your wife appealing, they will ask, especially in Katsina and Sokoto area, they will demand that you bring your wife to them to be married to them. And when you even succumb to that, you are expected to pay some ransom in appreciation for the terrorists admiring your wife. So it's getting worse at the moment in northern Nigeria. So it's more than just the financial aspect of it.
Yeah, I think just to add a little onto that, it's devastating the north. At times, even when you give them the money, they don't even. They won't even do what they said they would do. Even when they ask for the money, give them the money at times. They will fail. They won't even release the card they are couples. Okay. Doctor?
Yes, no, I just add this, that yes, it's a conquest, but much more than that, it's another form of the Islamization campaign. You know, because an average extremists, and I'm choosing my words because I have Muslim friends that are liberal in their thoughts and their doings. And so for the average extremist, they believe that when you capture these Christian girls and then you convert them forcefully, you're spreading the gospel. You're spreading Islam. You know, and for them that is gain. So okay, maybe the monetary thing came in later. So that's one angle to look at it. Another angle to look at it is the criminality of the situation that we see now, where you now have terrorists, you have insurgents, criminally minded people that just go out there, pick random people, and take them hostage and make them to do all manner of things like we've had the Chibok girls. And there's this other one that is popular, I can't remember. Yes. So you have such cases too. So there's a criminality angle of it, and then there is, the religious angle of it. But either way, it's bad. It's bad. It doesn't have more. It doesn't have a political economy undertone. It's hard to say at this time. Yes, they ask for ransom, but that's a different case completely. But this one we're talking about today here is the girls that are captured and forcefully converted to a particular religion.
Yeah, I think we'll take the last one because quickly, let's hope.
I'll just go really quick.
Yeah, 2 questions.
Thank you, you guys. This is really amazing work. My name is Mary Jane Wusunas. I happen to study how do you build close relations between Christian and Muslim. I'm Greek, so it's more related to the Balkans and Turkey. But one of the keys is that there's no one right path to God, and believing that. And I guess I wonder, you mentioned, but I know a little of Cote d'Ivoire. Are there other parts of Nigeria where you have other kind of close relations or close tolerance and not this kind of behavior? What's the difference there? Or what can we learn from those communities?
Sorry. Mine is going to, I know like most of you already attended our session yesterday on ending period poverty. And we've talked about how, young girls at the age of 9, that is almost like the age of marriage, like in most Sharia laws. And I'm also from a Muslim country, Sudan. And my mom was married at 13. I think this happened after the bloodshed, like menstruation. So my question is, are you guys doing something to be able to even curb that? Like menstruation is tied to early marriage in most communities that I come from. Is there a way that you guys are working on ending period poverty or even helping girls to be able to seek help where almost concealing that they have started their menstrual cycle because it's almost like a trigger of like, hey, I am old enough while there's still children.
Well, to answer the first question, actually there are exemplary communities, like I told you about Bade. Bade in Gashua is a mixture of Christians and Muslims there. And so when this happened, we approached the area, and he actually cooperated. But in some areas, the area will vehemently refuse. In the area of Katsina, we actually appealed to the governor. The governor offered that he was going to make sure the girl comes home, only for him to call us together with the families, and then offer money to the family for the girl to be permanently married. But that wasn't the understanding. The parents wanted their daughter, but you now offered a bride price. Today, we have that girl kicked out of the marriage. And the governor continues his life. Everybody continues their life, but the poor girl is suffering. And so we're talking, we are trying to learn from those who cooperate and make this kind of advocacy, make loud some of these things so that other communities will learn from. Yeah, making friendship with Muslim mixed community is one of those things we have to come to. We have to accept that we will live together. But the question is, how much do Muslims understand that we have to live together? And one of the things is the blasphemy law that makes them see that if you are a non-Muslim, you should not be tolerated. That has to be preached by the Muslim leaders and clerics so that at least it will give us an all-inclusive community.
Yeah, just to quickly answer the part B of your question, then, that if there are communities in Nigeria where you have, coexistence, yes, there are. You find that in Plateau states we have some local governments, we have even families.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes. My husband is a Muslim, converted to Christianity, and he has Muslim siblings, and we interact, we marry, and all that. So some pockets of the North Central, you have that kind of relationship going on, and then the Southwest Christians.
I know more.
In short, Yorubas it's very easy to find both Muslims and Christians.
Okay, that's what I'm more
And so my president is a good example. He's a Christian, and then he's a Muslim, and the wife is a pastor, he's a Christian, and they've been married for over 40 years. So you have such relationship with. But I don't think relationship between Christian and Muslim is a problem.
No.
We grew up together, we went to school together. I think when we have a problem when we have extremists and ideology, and for mischief makers, people that we call conflict entrepreneurs, people that profit, from making conflict to happen. And because like they have established earlier, Nigeria is a very religious country, and so if you want anything to sell, just give it a religious coloration. And when people begin to take, so you have mischief makers, politicians, or elites, wherever they are called, hiding under religion, to carry out their mischief. And who are those they easily, influence? Are the downtrodden? Those that are, living below the poverty line, and those that are not educated, are not enlightened. Because you don't find that same scenario, happening among the elites. They throw banters, it's fasting period, they go, they breakfast together and all that. So it's just, a whole lot there. And then to your question, how are we addressing period poverty, for young children? It still boils down to advocacy and sensitization, and I know we are not even in the north. You find, most average families, embracing, the idea of not marrying off the children very early. And embracing the importance of educating them, because they're beginning to see the gains of that. But in terms of number, of course, that there's still a lot to be done. It's still like a little drop in the ocean. But are we stagnated? No. Are we where we used to be? No. But I see a future for the northern region. I do have hope.
Thank you so much. It's unfortunate we have to close up. It's time. But just before we do that, I would say I am a typical example of a Nigerian that is mixed. My mom was a Muslim. My dad married her into the family, and she got converted on her own. We are 4 in the family. I'm the second child. But as time went on, she began to face issues with her siblings, because she now converted. But the most important part here is we live together. She has relations who are Muslims. She as a Christian in the family, she always thinks about them. She does things with them. So we are completely mixed together. As Doctor has said, the problem is when we have the extremists. They are the ones that bring the issues. And most times, unfortunately, the society allows them to do that. So I guess we would call it a curtain here. But before we do that, I would like to call engineer. If you give us the last few words before we disperse. Thank you once again to everybody. Thanks for coming.
Thank you very much. We have to thank Jubilee Campaign, Christian Freedom International, and all of you who are here. We thank you very much for attending, and we're hoping that there will be a change in the years to come. Thank you very much.